are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to Faith. You're talking to Faith Mweliwa Chipangura. A mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, an author, a social entrepreneur, and a child of God.
Child of God. I like that. Let's just start with the child of God before we go any further.
Okay.
I'm guessing then, since you've just said child of God, religion obviously plays a big part in your life.
I wouldn't say religion exactly, but I'll say spirituality. I was born into a Christian family and raised there. So what I realized was, from a young age, I practiced religion without understanding of what spirituality was. I didn't know God for myself or through my personal experience. I would say maybe I tethered or Bluetoothed from my mom and my grandmother because they were the drivers of the whole thing. Until a certain age when I was grown up to understand that I need God for myself and I need to know Him for myself. So that's where it started from. So for me, spirituality, God, the Holy Spirit, and everything that comes with that plays a very big part in my life.
So talk to me then, let's go back to your background, I guess. Where were you born and how was that growing up?
I was born in my grandmother's kitchen.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So my mom is a
amazing.
nurse. She went home for the holidays, and then when she gets there, she has an emergency delivery, and this little child comes prematurely.
Wow.
And the first people who touch me are not doctors.
Oh.
It's like the ngangas and the village midwives. So my dad wasn't a Christian. He didn't go to church, but on that occasion, he knew he needed to call God on that and believe for that I wasn't going to die, because there was no incubators. There was the hospital close by. Even when they took me there, it doesn't have the state-of-the-art kind of equipment. So then he names me Faith.
Wow.
So from there, we moved and we went back where my mom was working, which was Kana Mission.
Okay. Where is it?
What's the name of the place? When people kana wachiwanzira vamwe Gokwe.
Gokwe. Okay. Gokwe. Okay.
It's in Gokwe.
Okay.
So from there, we stayed there until I was around 5, and then we moved to Matabeleland. And then we grew up in the village, my mom's side of the family, after my parents split. And from there, it was pretty much autopilot. Village girl, born and bred, and grew up with my cousins. Very big family, and very religious family. Uncles and aunties, pastors, and church elders, really. So if you ever see me drinking alcohol, just know that it's my doing, not because we grew up seeing it at home. At home, they knew prayer, they knew fasting, they knew God. So that's how it was. So yeah.
How was that? Just obviously, I think now you said you do drink alcohol, but like those
No,
vices.
I don't.
Oh, you don't drink alcohol. Okay.
I would not say I drink.
Okay,
no,
you
I
do
don't.
not. But how was that? Like obviously, because you born in the village and then moved. Obviously, I think we were speaking off air. You talked about boarding school.
Yeah.
And then that jump sort of from like the village girl into like town. Was that a big jump for you?
The big jump came in 2011 when I got married to my ex-husband.
Okay.
I had always perhaps visited town maybe 2-3 days and then go back home. So I didn't have much of a culture shock, I guess, due to the exposure. In boarding school, it kind of trained me and molded me into a person who can survive just about anywhere with any kind of people who I get exposed to. So when I moved, also it wasn't a small town. I moved straight from the village to Harare.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is
So when
massive.
I get here, I can communicate properly in English. I can understand. My big problem is I'm having a Shona surname, but I do not understand Shona. And I only speak Ndebele in English. That was the challenge. So, and then the culture kind of getting in and then getting exposed to how Shonas do things. You know, in Ndebele I can just say Salbonane. I don't have to wombera my hands. So in Mashonaland, if you say Magadi and you don't wombera, it's regarded as somewhat disrespectful. So from there, I then realized, no, there was a little bit of an adjustment. So also being labeled, I would say it would come as a bit of a challenge, because it's like, why are you speaking in English? We are in Zimbabwe. I would get that a lot with public transport, you know, Mawindis, or when you're in a public place, it's like you're snobbish because you're communicating in English. So eventually I got to understand that they don't mean it from a bad place. They're just shocked, why are you speaking in English? So now I can communicate in Shona, though sometimes my Shona pantos run out.
Okay.
But I can communicate in Shona. And then the lifestyle part, I would say maybe was a major shock, because you have to show up a certain way, you need to be groomed a certain way, and you need to appear a certain way. So that would be the only difference that I would have. Yeah.
Did you know what you wanted to be at a young age? Yeah, growing up.
Yeah. Okay. I did. I never told anyone.
Okay. Oh,
but it was two things for me.
Okay.
When I was young, I wanted to be flight attendant. Yeah. When I was 5, we bumped into this elegant woman, tall, beautiful, Zimbabwe crew. I was around 6 years old in Bulawayo, and then my mom says, she's a flight attendant. And girls who get to be flight attendants are intelligent girls. They're smart, they take care of themselves. So growing up, I knew I had to be smart. I needed to be intelligent. I had to take care of myself because I wanted that. And then the second thing was, I wanted to be impactful. I didn't know how. And I wanted to be famous. And I wanted to have money. So I didn't know what that looked like. But I just had an idea of how I would want it to be like. So, and then as years went by up to now I'm seeing it as I'm living it, that as much as I'm not where I want to be, I'm having a little impact with the work that I do. And that fulfills my heart. The money isn't there, but I'm believing that it's going to come and catch up eventually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where is it then that you want to be then? If we can just, where?
I would want to be at a place where I can do or help other people with no restriction of financial issues. I'd say maybe if I can measure it through a person who's had impact that I've seen, Oprah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say I would want to be at an Oprah level or a Joyce Meyer level, whereby you reach the kind of target that you want. For me, I have a heart for women. Women hold a very special place in my heart. So sometimes I'll see that with what I'm doing, perhaps a quarter of my foot is headed in that direction. It's not fully immersed into that because of the restrictions that come with other things. You know, you don't have the exposure, you don't have access, you don't have the finances to back you up. Yeah. But if all those three come together,
that's where you want to be.
That's where I want to be. Talk
to me now. Let's go into this writing now. 7-time author. There's Faith Chipangura. That's crazy, yo. That is amazing.
I think I always get a shock when somebody says that. Because to me, I think maybe I haven't had the revelation of how powerful it is. But to me, it's always like, 7 books, okay. Writing is a major part of who I am. Because I get to express myself. I've realized that it's not everyone who's going to hear my voice if I'm only talking or speaking the way we are right now. Yeah. There's someone who is in Colombia. There's someone who is in Zaire, wherever that is, you know. And those people perhaps are going through the same things that I'm going through, or have gone through the same things that I've gone through, or are trying to avoid the things that I've gone through. And the best way I can do that is through books. So when I write and then I put it, for example, on Amazon, it gets the access all over the world. So anyone can access that work and they can get transformed by that. So I realized that writing is more of a voice than I would ever have. So even if the person doesn't get to encounter me physically, they get to encounter the work that I do and be inspired by it or transformed or built by it.
You just mentioned voice. I think one of the questions I had is, how does one find their writing voice? Is it something that it just comes naturally? Do you just have to, I don't know. We might not even know the answer. I don't know. It's just something that's just popped into my head. It's like, how does one find
I would say by
their writing
writing
voice?
By writing over and over.
Okay.
Yeah. Write as much as you can. When I started writing, I didn't have the voice that I have now.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps the same message is still there, but it's still being refined.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the fine tuning until you get to the end product. It's never the end product, but it's present, continuously transforming.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started writing, I was a little bit timid.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit shy to own my story, to own the message that I'm carrying. But with time, I realized that it's coming out by itself.
Okay.
It's like when you get comfortable in a place, you walk into a room, you find people sitting.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to start screaming. You first survey the room and check, how are they receiving me?
Mm-hmm.
How's the energy there and what needs to be done? Eventually, the liberty just comes and takes over, and then you find yourself.
I don't know why I'm thinking about like a therapy in terms of, there's a word for it, I can't find it, but like a therapy in terms of like writing, that it helps, it helps like, not go over, but like, it is a way of of overcoming everything that you've been through in terms of writing.
Yeah, I'll say it's therapeutic.
Yes, that's
the word.
That's the word I was thinking. It's therapeutic. Yeah. Is your writing therapeutic?
I think it is.
Okay.
It is, yeah. So I have writing rituals. So when I need to get myself, some days I feel like writing just comes to me and then I'll just get on with it. Some days I have challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes you just want to write and the writing juices are not flowing, but you know the message that you have. So I'll get myself in a very quiet space and perhaps have a few questions to just get me started to write down. Why do you need to write about this?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think is going to be achieved by writing this? And then from there, you find that I find peace, and then I start writing. And I'll say out of my 7 books, the most therapeutic one to write was book number 2, Dungeons. It's very messy, it's very triggering. So it made me revisit all those places of pain, which I call the dungeons. I had to confront them, I had to face them, and I had to make peace with them. And then from there, you find that it's very easy to even talk about the things which are in the book without me crying.
Yeah, because
so I'm realizing,
they're on paper, they're alive. Okay, right. Yeah.
So I'm realizing that with time, as I was writing more and more, it gave me the liberty to share my story. I could never talk about my divorce without crying. I could never talk about events leading to me quitting my job as a flight attendant without feeling bitter or getting a certain pain or even my tears welling up. But from that point of understanding that it gives me peace to just release that part and tell part of my story. Because it's one thing to tell your story and it's another to bleed on paper. So
I like that.
it becomes easy for you to tell everyone the whole messy part and then forget what are they picking out of that. So you need to be careful with that because you might overshare or you might or sabotage yourself in the process.
Right.
So you need to package it in such a way that you tell it all and then release yourself from it, and then you get to the editing part and then decide what goes what and what just gets thrown to the bin.
While we're on there, just talking about just the process, your process. Let's say there's a young girl watching and she wants to be a writer. I know one of the first things you're going to say is write and write and write as much as you can, right? But I want to go through that process of like, she's written the book. I want to talk to you about the editing. Does she have to have an editor? Like, how does that work? Let's just pick any girl here right now in Zimbabwe who's watching, who's probably going to watch this, who wants to be a writer, and then from the editing to the publishing, and then to a book launch. Like, how does that all, if you can, work?
Okay.
Yeah, talk about
So
that
the
process.
first thing that I would say to young writers is get yourself a writing mentor.
Okay.
Yeah. When I started writing, I didn't have a writing mentor. So it was until 2 years back when I turned, I'm not going to tell you my age.
That's all right. You don't
when
you turn that
age.
age.
A certain
Yeah.
age, when I left my 30s, like as in 30 on the dot, when I left 30, I decided I was going to mentor upcoming writers under the age of 30. So what happens with having a writing mentor is that you get someone who gives you guidance how to find your voice and maintain it, because we live in an age and area where we have an overload of exposure. We're exposed to someone in America, to someone who's in Brazil, to someone who's in South Africa. So they'll say, this is good to say. And then the other one comes and say, this is good to say.
Yeah.
And it contradicts what you know is your truth. And then from there, you might find yourself conflicted and how you present your message. And it's very easy to step up and become an imposter. And then you pretend to be a person whom you're not. So I'll say, find a writing mentor so that you remain grounded.
Okay.
When you have a writing mentor, it's very easy to be held accountable because they will ask you for verifying purposes and question the reason why you're writing it a certain way and if it's your voice. And then from there, everything really becomes a bit clear. So in the process of writing, you need someone who's going to be on your case. You find that it's easy to say, oh, I'm going to write a book. You know, when I'm telling you that I'm going to write a book, it's exciting. But there is work. For you to get to 34,000 words, there's a lot of sitting down and intentional sitting down to say, I'm going to write, I'm forcing myself. So when you have someone like that, then they can keep you accountable. Even when you're going off course, it's easy for them to channel you back in. Yeah. So once you've written your book, I'll say find people that you trust. Don't just give anyone your book. People will break you. You take your book to the wrong person, they'll tell you, you don't have a message. This is rubbish.
You're wasting your time.
And then you kill your dream. And then you kill yourself in the process as a creative, and then you just somewhat shrink yourself and then hide. Because, you know, opening up about your work and giving it to someone to look at it and give you constructive criticism is very difficult. Because the danger of getting demotivated and the danger of getting shut down is very easy. So I'll say that's the second thing. And be discerning when you're writing. What's the message about? Is it a message to cultivate, or is just you venting out and bleeding on paper? Because people have frustrations. Be careful not to use your writing as a therapist and your readers as clowns who are just partaking in whatever is happening for hype. Write a message which is sustainable. So if you're sharing about your case of abuse, for example, why are you sharing it? Find your why and let that anchor you into your message as you continue to share it. So even 10 years down the line, run back to your why and remind yourself why you did that. So that would be the third thing. And then you asked about the editing process. Yeah.
But before we get to that, I don't know if maybe actually that could be tied in with the editing. Is then how do you then break it down, or is this the editor who comes in, or the writing mentor who breaks it down then into chapters, right? Because books have chapters.
Yeah. All right. I'll say find a structure. When you're writing, find a structure. You can write about anything, anyhow.
Just keep going. Yeah.
The one thing that I've learned is when I write, this is my writing process. I'll get an idea of what I want to write about. I'll give you an example. Say, for example, the value-added woman. Okay, sounds good. But why the value-added woman? Yeah. And then I come up with my reason. And then what is the value-added woman? And then I answer that. And then I go to the next part. How am I going to lay it down and structure it? So then you find kuti, kune the introduction of what the value-added woman is, where is it coming from and where is it going. And then from there, you break it down into chapters. What chapters do you want to include into the whole process? Where has she been? What has she done? What has happened to her? And how has she overcome? And then you break it down into chapters. You're saying, these are the things that she battles. Perhaps it's a chapter. And this is how she has overcome. This is another chapter. And this is where she desires to go. That's the third chapter. So when you break it down and then you have your chapters, before you even start your writing process. So from there, you go then and do your research. Who's the value-added woman? How can I identify her? For me, like I said, I'm anchored in God. That means I use the word of God, the Bible. I go back to reference in the Bible. I'm looking for the value-added woman. Who are they? How did they overcome? And how does it apply now? How is it relatable? How can I marry the past in the word and the present in this current age that we're living in? And then you bring it together. So from your research, then you come down to start writing. Everything then just flows. It's like you've built up the skeleton, now you're just putting some flesh on it.
Yeah. So I think, you're right. So preparation then definitely before you start has to be in place.
Yeah. Otherwise, you run out of things to write. I've seen people who have written, I'm not saying, respectfully saying so, I'm not saying that they haven't done enough research, but I've seen some people who've written and then halfway they're like, Coach, I can't seem to break forth. So my response always is, just take a break and let the project off a little bit and just go through whatever you need to go through. Perhaps that's research that you need. And then you'll be equipped enough to come back and fill it up.
All right, so now, let's the editing now.
Or
the editor, or...
The editing, before you before you send your book to the editor, please edit it yourself.
Okay. All right.
I'm telling you, my first book, when I sent it to the editor, it was a mess.
Wow. When we say mess, what are we talking? Are we just talking about when I'm thinking
line
punctuation and
line construction, the flow, the grammar, some of the words. You think you know English until you write, and then you find that you spelled something so wrongly. The layout is wrong. Perhaps the paragraph which is supposed to be the second is on the third part, and then you have to switch them up and. It takes someone's eye. Because when you're writing, I mean, we are wise in ourselves. When you're writing, you tell yourself, I've written so good, like, I'm so proud. Until the editor looks at it and then it's like, what's this? So when you edit it before anything else happens, and I encourage this, you need to do this 3 times before you send it to the editor, so that you cut off any perhaps spelling errors. It's frustrating for an editor to be reading.
He doesn't want to be looking at that. He wants,
he wants
the real...
As much as he's going to edit it or she is going to edit it, they want to work with something that looks like someone is actually taking their time and intentionally looked into it to say, how's this coming out?
Right.
So if you edit it 3 times and you feel you've taken off all the errors, perhaps close to all the errors, because you will always find something wrong with the document. By the time it goes to the editor and then they go through it, I'm telling you, editors are the most ruthless people, and they need to be like that. For the reason you put it, otherwise you send something so wrong out into the public.
And it's got their, I guess, name on it, right? Underneath, like editor or whatever. And they don't want
has. You don't want to be associated with something that looks like what just happened.
Exactly. Okay.
So with the editing process, so once you've sent it to the editor and they're happy with it and you're happy with it, now the danger with editing is that someone's voice might end up on the book more than yours. So you need to be firm and you need to do the editing process with someone that you have a relationship with. And I always emphasize on this because you want your voice to be heard and you want them to hear you. So before I edit someone's work, I always want to have maybe 2-3 sessions with them, talk to them, hear their thinking process, their voice, hear their philosophies, their beliefs and stuff like that. So when I'm editing your work, I'll hear you. When you have copied from the internet, your voice will keep quiet and I will know that you've copied it. And I'll always come back to say, okay, let's give credit for this, where we took it from. Was this your idea or you had it somewhere else? because we want accountability. We don't want plagiarism.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in an age where there is free information for all.
Google.
You Google how to heal the wounds, and then you just go copy and paste it into your book.
Yeah.
It will come out good, but is it really good? So when we look at those things, you come back to that and hear your voice, maintain your voice. When I'm giving you suggestions as an editor, it's not to say shrink your voice down. I need you to polish it so that it comes clearly. I find that sometimes maybe you've said it with so many words, and perhaps you need like something summarized, and that goes straight to the point.
Okay.
So, and then after editing, the process which comes is proofreading. You send it to someone who hasn't seen it at all. Yeah, a professional, somebody you trust as well, so that they'll pick something which the editor and yourself that you missed. So once they go through that, you'll be shocked. You think this is a perfect product, we're done with this, until it comes with 300 corrections, and it's like, oh. And then from there, you typeset the book and do the lines, and the IT guys do that very well.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll say, in that whole process, be sure to either engage someone who's a professional on it, because there's a lot of people who are rising up and coming across as publishers. They can handle the process for publishing your book, which is the editing, proofreading, typesetting, cover designing, ISBN acquisition, and all those things. It's very easy to say, I'm offering these services. People are coming like, I'm offering these services for $80. The reason why editing is expensive is because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So you give someone your $80, and then your book will come out looking like it was just run over by a truck, and the words are all over the place, and it's you're struggling to understand. So,
okay. How? I'm just like obviously just listening. How long is this process? If you had to, or it can be as long as it needs to be.
It takes long. It takes as long as it needs to go. But I believe that if we say it takes as long as it needs to go, sometimes we stand a danger of having a product being in the process of being edited for like 10 years.
Yeah.
You can go for 10 years with something being edited. That's too long a time.
It's too long.
So I always put the process within 3 to 5 months if you need a good book which is not rushed.
Okay.
Yeah. So unless and until if you have a very efficient editor who can, some people really are efficient. They can work over editing perhaps a 100-page or 150-page over a period of 2 weeks, because they are breathing and living that actual book every day, morning to evening. They're sitting down to work on that. Yeah. And then you can have it maybe within 4 weeks or 8 weeks or 6 weeks.
Okay.
But when you really need something which is not rushed, say give it 3 to 6 months.
Okay. And then if we look at now the publishing, I guess, how does that? So she's written the book, it's been edited, or is that all still under the publishing company? Like she's done everything, she's proofread it, it's ready. Ms. Chipangura is ready. She's like, there's the book. I want to get it published now.
And then you handle that process for packaging it. To package the book. As a publisher, your job is to facilitate the process of having the end product. So when she brings it already edited, already typeset, already this and that, it's already halfway through publishing. It's like poto ya bikwa, or boiler your beef. Kwazara kungoisa salt nemafuta. Who's taking credit for it?
Yeah.
The person who's going to finish up the kangaring process, like the roasting process, for those who don't understand. So when you're doing it like that, I'll call it hybrid publishing. She has handled the better part of it. And then as a publisher, I'm coming in just to package and give a direction to say you're doing ABCD and offering services of on a consultancy basis. And then when it's already packaged and everything, the rights remain the author's rights. So I'm in favor for self-publishing and hybrid publishing. By hybrid publishing, I mean either the author or the publisher can handle the publishing process, and then the rights remain as the author's. Or the author handles the whole process from A to B. They just find editors, they pay, proofreader they pay, and so on and so on. However, the danger with that is that you have different people handling this. And there's a Shona saying it says photo in biki wakawanda along those lines, yeah. When so many cooks are
trying to
pouring,
do the thing. It becomes too much.
It becomes too much. So you want one person. What I encourage is hybrid, with the publisher handling everything and you maintaining your rights, so that you get expert advice and then you get guided accordingly.
Thank you. I think that's it's,
you should write a book now.
I know, right? We should definitely write a book. What do you think of, like, if we come back to like just women writing? What do you think of like women authors in Zimbabwe currently? Is it a growing movement? Does it need more of you? Like, where are we right now in Zimbabwe?
Women are taking spaces. They're taking space. I know this one lady. I'm gonna mention her name. Pastor Imelda Tsumba. She has, the last time I checked, she had 49 books. A woman here in Zimbabwe. So to me, I look up to her. In the Zimbabwean sector and aspect, I look up to that woman because it takes a lot of discipline, a lot of work and dedication to your craft. And I'm seeing a lot of women taking up space. There's a rise of very encouraging. So I would say it's a growing market. It's a growing industry, and it's quite interesting because when you get a woman to tell a story, you know that you have a good one. I mean, women are storytellers. Even growing up in our families, if dad is to tell a story about how they met, you'd be like, I went to this place and then I saw your mother. The mom would describe it as she felt it and as she experienced it. So I think that's the joy of having women writers. So when we look into it, I think the future of writing books and publishing is in good hands in Zimbabwe.
Coming back to you personally, I know you've just started. You have your own podcast. I stumbled across it on your website. How's that going? So, because we were speaking earlier about writing and then obviously putting on Amazon, but obviously, having a podcast too. That helps. Yeah,
true. So I'm podcasting. I realized I like talking. Yeah, I enjoy talking, not just to blabber away, but to share wisdom and lessons. So if I find something powerful and impactful, I want to share it with someone. I want to talk to people about it, and I want them to access it. So the best way I thought to do that was through podcasting. In 2018, I got challenged by my coach. He said to me, if you have something to say every week to inspire someone and have them be transformed, do audio recordings and send them to people. In 2018. So back then, I wasn't comfortable enough or confident enough to actually go open a podcast. So every week I would do like maybe 3 minutes recording, and I'll send to my contacts about 800 people.
Okay.
Yeah. So every week, every once a week, get a motivation or something. So I would always get people saying, that was very inspirational, thank you. And you get pictures from people playing it in the car via Bluetooth or listening to it and feedback. So last year I then said, let me do a podcast. So I did that. Yeah. And then I realized I will always get someone, maybe even if it's 40-something people have listened, you can get a good 10 or 12 coming back to saying, I went to your podcast and thank you for sharing this because I needed that word. So for me, if it can do that, then I'm good for it. Yeah.
You sound to me like, and I don't know if there's a secret behind it or if you want to share that, but you sound to me like you're a woman that once you sort of set your mind to something, then you have to put the actions behind it.
Yeah, it's very easy to speak and say, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna change the world.
There's no action.
Yeah. I'm gonna achieve this, but it's got to be backed up by work. We can talk all we want. My grandmother always said when we were growing up, I'll say this in Ndebele and then I'll translate it. Ati umfula umlomo uqalelwa umfula. Like your mouth can jump a raging river. Like you can be saying, I can cross through this river with your mouth. Yeah. It's very easy. But you've got to back it up with action. Yeah. What is it that which you want? So there's one question that I've been taught to ask myself every morning when I wake up. What is it that which I want? And how can I achieve it? I want to see change. I want to see growth. I want to see transformation. It doesn't come with me just sitting and looking pretty. I've got to get up and do something about it. So what am I doing to achieve that which I want to see? I stand up, I write books. I stand up, I do my podcast. I stand up, I will go see people who need to be seen and contribute where I can. So I'll say you're right.
Yeah.
With all humility.
Yeah. No, that's good. So then what is a normal day then for Miss Faith? Like what do you have a schedule that you try to stick to? I know we were speaking again off air and you said you just left your job recently as well. So yeah, what are your days like?
My days are quite interesting. Sometimes I have a schedule, sometimes I don't. So you find that most of the times I wake up at between 5 and 7 in the morning. And then I'll take my time to pray, read the word, and then check my social media, respond to people who need to be responded to, or if I'm sharing every once a week, perhaps on Monday or Wednesday, I'll share a weekly encouragement. And then from there, exercise maybe about 10 to 15 minutes, and then go take a bath, make my breakfast, and then start my day. Emails, if I've got a meeting in town, I'm going there. And if not, perhaps I've got a project which I'm editing, because I'm an editor as well. So most of the time I'll be editing. If I'm not editing, then perhaps I'm writing. I'm just taking some time to read something, because I'm also a life coach. So for me to be able to pour into somebody's cup, I need to be pouring into mine as well. And I believe in resting and eating well. So I cook. I take time to cook really and have a good meal and then have some rest. Most of the time I'm a homebody. I do not like going into town because there's so many people with so many different energies and different intentions. And Harare, shush.
Is it different from Bulawayo? I've never been
It
to Bulawayo.
is.
Okay.
You what?
I've never been. I need
No.
to go. I know. I need
Please,
to go.
please go to Bulawayo
and then experience and then we can talk.
You need to.
Yeah.
I mean, Bulawayo is chilled.
Okay.
It's the Ndebele vibe, I guess. People are calmer. They're not. In Mashonaland, it's action.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Everything is. So when I first came here, it would always disturb me. But now I'm very intentional about why am I going to town.
Right.
I go into town on Sundays when I'm going to church. If I'm going to town, maybe it's twice at most during the week for a specific thing. So if I've got meetings, I will just pile them for one day. So I've got a meeting at 9, I've got a meeting at 11, and I've got a meeting at 2. And then I'm done with my day, I go back home. Instead of meeting Monday, meeting Tuesday.
That's too much.
No, So most of the time I'm at home, I'm working, I'm thinking, I'm breathing, I'm recharging. So that, because for me to show up as my best self, I need to have had some time to recuperate, recharge, and show up as the best I can be.
Is it tough trying to balance all these things? You mentioned life coach, podcast, editor, or do you just sort of take it in your nature? Like you said, it is about filling up yourself before you try and juggle, because it's a lot. I feel like it's a lot to juggle.
It is. Actually, you don't even know half of it. I'm at school as well.
Oh.
I'm doing a degree in ethics and organizational leadership.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So sometimes it's exam season. And then I have a mentorship program for upcoming writers, the Under 30 program, which runs twice a year for 3 months. So sometimes school is open, and then I've got mentorship, and then I've got work. So for me to juggle, I need to intentionally say, right, what are we doing today? We're doing this. Why are we doing it? I have to go back to my why to remind myself, because it's easy to get very depleted and we'll lose all the energy which you need.
Right.
So sometimes there's so much pressure, but I'm grateful to God for the teams that I have. And recently I opened an organization for women called One Woman. So we have sessions twice a week.
Okay.
So all those things take intentionality. Otherwise you find that the whole of my week, every evening I'm booked for speaking with somebody or for coaching somebody or having an engagement of sorts. And for me, it's enriching as much as it is. I need also to have energy for it. So I'm grateful that God has sent people my way who are helpers, who are enablers of saying, okay, you need to do this. How can I help? Back in the day, I struggled with asking for help. Even now, I struggle asking for help. But I've realized that the people who are around me, they'll show up and say, what do you need me to do? How can I help? So then I can then say, oh, I need this done. And then it's like, okay, I need it. So you need to decide why you're doing what you're doing if you're going to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll always be inflated with no energy.
My last question then would be taking you back. Usually my last question is actually about the future. And I think we spoke about that right at the beginning because you touched on it. So I'm going to take you back. What advice would you give yourself to your 16-year-old self? You can try and remember that. I know you've achieved
I've done it though.
You've done it? Okay.
Yeah, I wrote a book called Letters to My Younger Self. I dedicated it to my son and my nephews and nieces. But the one thing that I would say to my 16-year-old, to me at 16 is, you're capable. You're capable of anything and you're worthy. If there is anything which can be done under the sun, you have a shot at actually making it and doing it. The reason why I say this is because when I was younger, I doubted myself a lot. And I'm so sorry to that young little girl because it shook her to the core. Like, she didn't grow up with confidence. Because now you're looking at where you're growing up. I mean, you're growing up in the village and then you're thinking, what's going to become of me? My mindset was never a village mindset. I've always aspired for greater things. You know, you look at things and then you're like, oh, that's very nice, I like that. And then everyone is like, how are you going to get it? So I would motivate that young girl to dream bigger, to believe in yourself and to understand that. No, thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Too.
You can breathe. How was it?
It was flowing. It was like having a conversation.
I told you on the phone. I said it's like a conversation. There's nothing.
It's all right.
No. Thank you so much for sharing.
No, thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it.